I'm Paloma Pavel, and this is Breakthrough Communities. Global warming and climate change are issues of increasingly important concern to all of us on the planet. And here in California, we have enacted landmark legislation that requires that we reduce our carbon footprint from 13 tons per person per year to 2 tons by the year 2050. Today we have an opportunity to meet with Carl Anthony, our co-founder of Breakthrough Communities, and we're going to be learning more about how communities are responding not only to the threat and the challenge, but also to find some opportunities as we make these radical land use and transportation changes. In September of this year, 2010, the California Air Resource Board further set targets. Here in the Bay Area, we will be changing our greenhouse gas emissions, reducing them 7% by 2020 and 15% by the year 2035. I'm wondering, Carl, these are a lot of numbers. Can you take us kind of down on the ground? What does this actually mean as we change our ways of life?
Well, it means that we're going to have to get out of our cars. Most of the carbon emissions, or many of the carbon emissions, come from our over-reliance on automobiles. It also means that we're going to have to build housing close to public transportation. And these changes could actually be disastrous for communities of color, or they could be a really great opportunity to really address some long-standing issues that have not been addressed over the last generation.
How will this affect some of the aspects of our daily life, like housing and transportation?
Well, as we seek to have more concentrated housing near public transportation, many of the neighborhoods where this housing is located are neighborhoods that are presently occupied by people of color. So there's a threat that, in fact, as more housing development, more mixed income housing development happens in these neighborhoods, that people could be displaced. A second real opportunity in this is to make sure that throughout the region, the new housing opportunities close to jobs, close to good recreation and good schools are available to people who've been living in concentrated poverty.
Also on the transportation front, as you were saying, Carl, that 40% of our carbon emissions come from transportation. This is really an opportunity for us not only to address issues for certain parts of our region, but really to get a public transit system that works for everyone, that we really have bus and transit opportunities for people of all income levels.
That's exactly right. And we need to focus on the most vulnerable populations to make sure that people who are cashiers and school teachers and folks who are janitors and many service workers have the opportunity to take public transit to where they work. In addition to that, we have to also look at the fact that there's going to be huge public investment in this change. For example, here in the Bay Area, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission will oversee $215 billion worth of public expenditures over
Did
the
you
next
say billions?
billion.
Oh my gosh.
$218 billion over the next 25 years for this change. And this represents a big opportunity for us to think about how public investments can actually help to overcome the economic polarization in our society.
That sounds also like workforce opportunities.
It is workforce
that could
opportunity.
translate into jobs that could actually help our communities.
It could translate into jobs. It could translate into economic development opportunities, businesses for people of color, for women-owned firms. It could translate into a huge benefit for all of our metropolitan regions. And then finally, there's a growing concern that our over-reliance on automobiles and the way that we have been living has caused irreparable public health damage. So we have an obesity epidemic, and this is an opportunity for us to get out of our cars and have more people walking, having our young people walk, have people riding bicycles, having people take public transportation. Public health is a big part of this issue, and there's a major opportunity to shift our priorities in that region.
So what I hear you saying, Carl, is that Building more sustainable regions could actually benefit the most marginalized and vulnerable parts of our community.
That's exactly right, but it will take organizing, it will take folks to be well informed and to be part of the kind of processes that are going on now.
Sustainable community strategies are another tool that our communities can use to build power and to be at the table as these decisions are being made. Every region is required to create a sustainable community strategy. Tell us a little about
Well,
how people can get
in,
involved.
in California, this legislation that was created will create new opportunities for people to engage in public decision making. And so it's very important for people of color, for working families, for folks who care about social and economic justice to stand up and be heard in these various arenas. The first thing that we really need to do is to contact our elected officials and let them know that we want this transition to be fair. A second thing is to engage with environmental justice organizations throughout the country, but particularly throughout the places where you live, and tell them that you really want us to focus on making this transition in a way that's fair.
This is a big moment. This is a moment where the decisions that we make and our ability to steer and be participating in the process will create outcomes that we'll be living with for the next 100 years.
Exactly. And so that's why it's really important that communities of color, working families, the labor movement, people who have been concerned about economic justice participate in this process.
We want to have a better outcome for everyone and make sure that no one is left out of this process. You can learn more about this also on our website, www.breakthroughcommunities.info. We want to thank you for being with us today, and we look forward to working with you to create a sustainable and just California.
I'm Carl Anthony.
And I'm Paloma Pavel.